Okay, so the sun's finally gone down, so it's not shining up in my eyes, and my neighbor finally finished mowing their lawn, so I should be able to do another example, and it'll be a bit clearer. So remember, the first thing we do, our formula is f of x equals a times x minus p times x minus q. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my x-intercepts. Remember I told you that the formula has a minus sign in it. So when there was a minus here, we kind of ignored it and just took 2. Well, remember that this, when you have a plus, that can be the same as x minus a negative 2. So your p in this case is actually negative 2. So you're always going to take the opposite of what you see, basically. If you see a negative, then your x-intercept is positive. If you see a positive, then your x-intercept is negative. So this is negative 2. This one, I see a negative, so I'm going to put positive 4 as my x-intercept. I can go ahead and graph those. So I've got a point at negative 2. I've got a point at 4. So those are my x-intercepts. Now, again, like before, I'm going to skip the vertex and go to my axis of symmetry. I know axis of symmetry is going to be x equals something, and it's going to be halfway between negative 2 and 4. If you're not sure what's halfway between negative 2 and 4, then use that formula, p over q divided by 2. So my p is negative 2, my 4 is q, and then I've got 2. Negative 2 plus 4 is 2, and 2 over 2 equals 1. So my axis of symmetry then is x equals 1, which means I'm going to have a line, a vertical line, right here at x equals 1. All right, now I can use that information to go back and find my vertex. So the vertex is going to have 1 and then some y value. I've got to plug that in to find my y value. So I'm going back up into my original equation. Now this is going to be a little bit more complicated because I do have an a this time. So it is going to be f of 1, so I'm just plugging in that axis of symmetry value, equals negative 1/2 times, and then I've got x plus 2, so I'm going to put 1 plus 2. And then my second binomial is x minus 4, so I'm going to put 1 minus 4 because I'm replacing all my x's with 1's. So then f of 1 equals, I'm going to go ahead and do what's in my parentheses, just follow in the order of operations. 1 plus 2 is 3. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. And then I'm going to multiply. I like to go ahead and multiply my whole numbers first. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. And then negative 9 times negative 1/2 is positive 9/2 or positive 4.5. You guys have gotten into a habit of being afraid when you get a fraction or a decimal, that means you've done something wrong. And that's partially our fault. We don't put enough examples that give you fractions and decimals. But trust yourself a little bit on this. Negative 9 times negative 1/2 is 4.5. I didn't do anything wrong. It's okay to have a fraction or a decimal. So that means that my vertex then is 1, 4.5. So that means I'm going to 1 and then I'm going up to 4.5. Like halfway between that 4 and this 5 here. All right, now I want my y-intercept. To find my y-intercept, I am taking that original equation and I'm plugging 0 in for all of my x's. Again, don't forget your negative 1/2. He's important here. So I've got 0 plus 2 and then 0 minus 4. Do what's in your parentheses first. So I've still got my negative 1/2 and then 0 plus 2 is 2. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. And I've got f of 0 equals, again, I'm going to go ahead and do my whole numbers first. It's just my habit, and the commutative property says I'm allowed to do that if I want to. So I get negative 1/2 times negative 8, which equals positive 4. So f of 0 equals positive 4, which means my y-intercept is 0, 4. And I can go over here to 0, 4, and I get my y-intercept. Now, once you get your y-intercept, you want to reflect that point. It was 1 space away, so I'm going to go 1 space away over here and put my other point. Now I can go ahead and sketch my curve. If you feel like you need more points, you can pick other x values to plug in and get additional points there. But you can go ahead and sketch this. It is going to be a parabola that looks kind of like this. Notice that because I had a negative a value up here, This is going to be pointing down, so it's got a maximum value instead of a minimum. And now, though, you guys are ready to go ahead and try on your own. You've got a couple of U-tries, one with no A in front, one with an A in front, but you can follow my examples, and I'll see you guys on the practice. Bye!